Hey y'all, it's Katie. Welcome back to From My Vanity and welcome to a bit of a different lighting situation. You're probably going to see little white circles in my eyes because I'm using my ring light for a regular video. Wasn't really anticipating using this, but I really need to film. Today is so overcast and gloomy that it looked ridiculous when I tried to just turn my camera on and play with the lighting. So I broke down and pulled out my ring light to use up here. This is definitely not going to become a regular thing because I had to move my vanity all around. If you watch my Shop My Stash or the Clean With Me, you see my vanity's pushed right against a window, so I had to like pull stuff out, move stuff around. It was a bit more than I tend to like to do for recording a typical video because I only have so much time. I have a very small window of time when my son and daughter are both sleeping at the same time to record, so it's definitely not going to be a regular thing, but for today, for special occasions like when it is so gloomy outside, it's basically dark, I'll use it. But anyway, we are going to be doing the worst products that I tried in 2018. Typical disclaimer, if I mention a product in here that you really love or that really works for you, don't take it personally. I am so glad that it does work for you, but for me, these were the products from 2018 that just, no ma'am, no thank you. Okay, first one, I can't remember what month I got this from, but I'm pretty sure I tried it in January, so I am including it for my 2018. But it is the Beaute Basics Bronzed Essential Palette. Anyone that gets Foxy Charms, do you guys remember that palette? It was so cheaply made, like the packaging was cheap, it felt cheap, like the hinge even felt like you could just break it up, break it apart just trying to open it. And inside they had it set up where, it was a bronzer, contour, and then a highlight, except the two highlights they split apart and did in the middle of like the contours and the bronzers. So I was just like trying to use it and like not get, and there was no like dividing between the shadows. It was just all kind of mushed together. I could not believe how terrible this was. And on top of that, I think the biggest reaction and the reason I just was like, oh my goodness, no way, is because it retailed for like $40 or $50 for something that I wouldn't pay $5 for. So that was just one product right away that was like, oh my gosh, yes, that is totally going in the worst products from 2018. The next one that got the spot for worst product from 2018 was the Covergirl Vitalist Healthy Concealer. Did anyone like that concealer? I saw a lot of reviews on it because CoverGirl sent out huge PRs to a lot of influencers, and so I saw a lot of reviews, a lot of people using it, and I don't think I ever saw anyone give a good review. For me, in my experience, it was chunky in an odd way. Like you would go to brush it on and it would just ball up in chunks. It would blend out, but it was just a really weird consistency. But even when you got it blended out, there was like no coverage going on. It was extremely sheer. And on top of that, the line, like wherever your concealer met your foundation, there would be a line that it just would not mesh and blend into the foundation. Yeah, I could not believe how bad that one was. I did not hang on to it. Okay, the next two products, I know I'm gonna have a lot of people who do like these products, so please, as I said in the beginning, don't take offense, but for me, these got a very, very intense reaction. The first one I'm going to mention is the Bad Habit Retro Love Palette. That was such a disappointment. I had such high hopes because I really would like to find a really fantastic dupe for the Anastasia Beverly Hills Subculture that you don't have to be so careful with, because the ABH Subculture palette is definitely one that I make sure I'm in the mood and I have the time to finesse and play with it, and I take things slow, whatnot. But I wanted to find a dupe for those, the greens and the mustards in that palette that I could use on an everyday basis, that I could always reach for and know that I was going to get really good looks. I didn't have to spend too much time. I didn't mind if I had to build it up as long as it, looked nice. That's what I was looking for. That Retro Love palette was so sad. I do have a Dupe or Dead You Be the Judge video. If you've never watched one of those, I'll leave it linked up here, and you can also find the playlist if you want to watch more. I can leave that link down below if you're curious. But whenever I do a Dupe or Dead You Be the Judge, I test the products on one side of my face. So I did the high end with the supposed dupe to see if it is a dupe. And when I did that video, it was so disappointing. It looked... I personally, I didn't even think it looked good. Like, it was very, on the ABH, I can't even remember which side was which, but on the Subculture side, it was very nice and pigmented and rich. And then on the Retro Love side, it was very, very faint and just taken down several notches. The yellow and like the more mustard yellow in that palette were pretty much invisible. Like, you couldn't really tell a difference between the two because they were so patchy and they would not build up. And then on top of all that, they faded so bad throughout the day. Like by the end of the day, the color would be pretty much gone. Don't think I remember any creasing, but fading was a big issue with Bad Habit palettes in general. That was such a big fail for me this past year, and definitely I knew what was going on this list. The next was the Bad Habit Aura palette. I really wanted to love this because I had been very intrigued with the Prism palette that ABH came out with that was duping, you know, the Aura palette was duping the Prism palette. I was very intrigued, but I didn't want to spend that much money on the ABH palette for just a couple shades that really intrigued me. There was only like maybe 4 shades in that palette that was like, I would really love to have that. So when I got sent the Aura palette, I was like, yes, this is perfect. I can have a dupe for it. I can still get the looks. It might, you know, take a little more building up, but I can still get the looks that I would get from the Prism palette, and I didn't have to spend that much money for, you know, a couple shadows that really stood out to me. And then I tried it. Oh my goodness, that one, I mean, I can't even tell you which was the bigger disappointment, the Retro Love or the Aura palette, but that one was a pretty big disappointment because I really wanted, one of the reasons I wanted the Prism palette was for that like neon green, and it was so disappointing in the Aura palette. Like I put it on and even then it was like lukewarm, but when I left my table, came back an hour later, it looked like a cream color on my lid. Like all the color had just faded like within an hour or two. It couldn't have been more than 2 hours. I could not believe how quickly it faded. And I remember I had to film a video that day and I was so disappointed. I ended up putting like Steel Glitter and Glow, one of those, all over my lid to jazz it up because the lime green was just, or the neon green, whichever one it was gone. So that was a big disappointment. And then on top of that, there were just other shades that were just very hard to blend. I didn't like the working with their shimmers. And then again, their mattes are just not my favorite to work with. So overall, yeah, that was a fail from this past year. Next is the Jouer liquid lipsticks. Oh my goodness, I really wanted to love these because I feel like a lot of people do. I feel that like that's where Jouer got its name, is their liquid lipsticks, but oh my goodness, I could not believe how terrible that was. Now I'm gonna link, I'll probably have to link it down below, or if it's not up here, check it down below because I'm gonna mention this. I'm gonna be wanting to link a lot of stuff in this video, but I did mention it in a monthly makeup review where I reviewed it, and I included a picture in there of what it looked like less than an hour after I had put it on, and it looks so terrible. I could not believe how bad it looked. It was terrible. That was one I wore like maybe 3-4 times trying to test it out that month, and then I was just like, I'm done. It's terrible. It's not comfortable to wear. It's very heavy on the lips. It's very drying on the lips. It looks like it accentuates and creates texture on your lips, lines on your lips. Didn't like it. That was a big fail. Next up is the Maybelline Lemonade Craze palette, and this one isn't terrible, but the reason I put it in here is because, once again, I had that reaction to it because going in, I thought it would be really nice. I had a lot of high hopes for it. It looked really pretty. It looked like softer colors, but I still liked that yellow and the raspberry shades in there, and I was really hopeful that it would turn out. But it was such a pastel-ish kind of neutral lemonade palette. I couldn't believe how soft the colors were. I really had to work to build up to the colors that you see if you watch my monthly makeup review where I reviewed it. I always include pictures of looks that I do creating whenever I review an eyeshadow palette. I include selfies of the looks that I got, and the looks there, like, for each of the looks, I had to spend so much time building it up and trying to get that intensity. And I had to start with a concealer base to really give the matte shades, the colorful shades, the best chance possible. And in that review video, if you want to go watch it, I sit there and I tap on the shadow with a little brush. I think it was like a blending brush. I can't remember. I tap on it for, I don't know, 10, 15 seconds, and I hit pan on one of the matte shadows. So yeah, that Maybelline Lemonade Craze, I had high expectations, and again, this is probably why it was such a fail for me, because I had a lot of high expectations for it, but it crashed and burned fast. Next is the Flower Beauty Brow Vixen Tattoo Stamp thingy-mabobby. It was one of those micro brow brushes that are supposed to kind of make it look like you got your eyebrows microbladed and whatnot and create really fine strokes. That stuff was like red in my brows, and I think I had the dark brown or the soft, I didn't have soft brown, I think it was dark brown. I forget the shade I had. I'll leave the review link down below, but I couldn't believe how red it looked in my brows. It was so bad. And on top of that, whenever I would kind of stamp it out and start to get going on it, wherever you initially stamped down, it would kind of bleed a ton of color, and then it would kind of get better and not so intense as you used it more. But that first couple times of pushing it down, and if you ever stopped and then went back to it, it would just almost like accumulate too much in the tip and then just like give you too much to work with on your eyes, and then you're sitting there trying to blend it out and you just have this blob and then all these little, it was just a hot mess. I did not enjoy that. Again, I'm not a brow person. It may be someone who, you know, were better at their brows, but even then, it looked red in my brows for a brown shade. no thanks. Next would be the Beauty Bakerie lip whips. Okay, I have a demo for this where I show like it on my lips and I like put my lips together and pull them apart. It's in the monthly makeup review where I reviewed it. So if you want to see that video of me demoing it, you can go down. I'll have a link down below if you want to watch it. But I did not like that with a passion. That liquid lip was so bad. You would put your lips together and then trying to pull them apart, it was like cement stuck together. It was like trying to... Watch the video, it's interesting. But if you want a close-up of my lips, that's kind of weird. But still, just to demo it, I could not believe how sticky it was even after it had dried, set, and it had been like an hour or two. If I got my lips together, it was such a pain to try to pull them apart. Add to that, now again, I had a nude shade, but add to that, it was so thin and so streaky. It was a hot mess express. I did not enjoy wearing it. It didn't feel nice. It didn't look nice. No thank you. Part of me really wants to try like a deeper shade from that line and maybe it's better. But with that said, another part of me is very scared. I might try at some point because it is at Ulta, so I could, you know, the return would be really easy and seamless, but it scares me because I've tried that nude shade and it was so bad. Now this one I know is going to be an unpopular opinion because so many people love it, but it is the NYX Epic Ink Liner. I bought that expecting so many amazing things because everyone talks about how good it is, and then I think the first time was great. I was like, oh, this is really nice. It reminds me of like the Physicians Formula or Jessie's Girl that I love, except it dries to a matte finish, which I prefer more. So I was like, sweet, this can be a new favorite. And I think it was the third time I went to use it and it just like deposited way too much, and then it started bleeding all up my eye. And I think it was on the inner corner when I was just trying to tap and get a really thin line. It, like, my whole inner corner was black, and I was just like, holy cow. I had to like do all this stuff to try to make it stop. Then I had to like redo all of my eye makeup on this side because it had completely ruined it. And I was just like, wow, like something funky happened. So the next time I went, and after that, I made sure to like clean off the tip because I didn't know if maybe something had gotten stuck there. Cleaned off the tip, put it away. Next time I went to go grab it, and I did a little wing. It was like an everyday, no big deal. It was fine. And then the day after that, I went and pulled it out, and I went to do the line, and it like the line looked great. And then all of a sudden, I just noticed it like bleeding upward, and I was like, whoa, stop it! Like what's going on? And I think it was only on one eye. Yeah, it was very odd. I don't understand that liner, and maybe it's something I just got a bad tube, possibly. But I did put a poll on my Instagram asking if other people have that issue, and not everyone, but I would say almost half, maybe like 40% said that they also don't like it because they don't have a good experience with it. So maybe it's something with the eye texture or the eye. Maybe I have very oily eyelids, so people who tend to have more oily eyelids have problems. I don't know what it is, but since I reviewed it that month, I put it far from me, and I ended up giving it to my sisters who want to practice their liquid liner. I was like, here, use this. I can't promise it'll look good every day, but at least you can practice doing a wing. So yeah, that was a big fail for me this year. Next up is the Hard Candy Galactic Eyes Glitter Palette. I didn't even review this one because I did a eye look and I did a collab with All Things Pure 27, I think is her number. I'll have her channel link down below, and her video. I can link that, both of our videos down below. But I did a video with her and we both used, I used this palette and then she used an Urban Decay that looked like the Hard Candy palette was trying to dupe. So we did a video together. I thought it was a lot of fun. It didn't get as good views as I was hoping for, as much interest as I was hoping for, but it is what it is. I had a lot of fun. I thought it was super interesting. So that was the only time I actually used this palette. And also we did arm swatches a ton of different ways on our arms. Some shades were okay, but I feel like more than half of them were that kind of like Vaseline and glitter chunkiness. And it just, I didn't like it. And when I did it on my eyes for that look, it looked nice on camera, but if you got up close, like it looked like the Sahara Desert. There were so many little cracks and crevices and crinkles. It made my eye, like every texture in my eye stand out even more. I can't imagine how it would work if you had really hooded lids. That probably wouldn't be pretty. And then by the time I washed my face off, it was starting to crack and fade, and there were a lot of lines in my eyes where it was just coming off. And on top of that, I had a lot of glitter fall out. And I remember saying, I think it was in a Shop My Stash, or maybe it was in a declutter, I can't remember, but I remember showing it and being like, I don't even want to use this. I don't even want to try it out for a month or a week or whatever because I don't like it. It's just not my favorite. I'm not someone who tends to like to work with glitter, so maybe that was it. But yeah, after that video, I was just like, pass it along. So next would be the Too Faced Tutti Frutti Glitter Liquid Glitter Shadows. I forget their official name, Spark Dazzle. I don't know. I will leave it linked down below if you're curious, but I bought 2 of these from Ulta with super high expectations. They were such a big disappointment. On top of glitter still falling all over my face a lot, even when I used a glitter glue, which doesn't really happen with Stila, they also just would not apply well. Like I would try to put it on there and no matter what, if I just had concealer or if I had a shadow underneath it, it would pick up and just like remove everything as I was trying to pat it on. And after 1 or 2 times of this happening, I was super careful when I went in and I tried to make sure I wasn't disturbing. I was just barely patting, doing 1 thin layer, letting it dry, maybe doing 2 layers and just leaving it at that. And it still kept disturbing the shadow underneath it. And that was just very annoying because then I would have like this odd bald patch somewhere and I would take it on my finger and try to tap it over to cover the spot. But another reason I didn't like them is they're very sheer formula. It's not as pigmented and full of glitter as the Stila's. It's more sheer and diverse and diffused, the glitter is. So trying to sit there and pack it on, like it would just take so long to really pack over the whole. And even then you could still see through it because there wasn't a lot of pigment to the liquid shadow and there wasn't a ton of glitter in the liquid shadow or the, you know, liquid glitter, whatever it's called. So yeah, those were many, many reasons of why it disappointed me, and the biggest reason why it's the biggest fail from 2018 is because I had such high expectations and it really just disappointed me. Next is the Bronx Colors Magic Foundation Primer. Oh my goodness, this was a bad primer. Like, I remember before I purchased it, and I purchased it for a $25 makeup challenge. I did it with Kaylee and George, I believe, and I purchased it because it was affordable, but I remember reading the reviews, and some people said, like, it does nothing, but a couple of people, or at least 1 or 2, I remember reading saying, like, hey, like, everyone's knocking this to do nothing, but I think it's actually nice. So I was like, maybe this is a hidden gem, and people just knock it because it's, I don't know, so cheap, or just doesn't appear to do anything. It did something. It kept removing my foundation from off my face. That's what it did. Like whenever I put it on, midway through the day, I would go and touch my face and it would take off the foundation that I have on top of it. That was a bad one. I hoped it would be like a hidden gem at the drugstore and a good product from Bronx Colors because I haven't tried hardly any products from them, but that product scares me away from ever trying them again. Okay, next is the Rimmel London Wonderfully Real Mascara. This, I just couldn't believe how difficult it was to use as a mascara. I remember the first time I used it, I didn't have anything else on my lashes. I didn't have a mascara on before that. I used it on my bare lashes and I went and put it through my lashes a couple times and it was such a thick formula, almost gel-like formula, that it's like it took all my lashes and made 2 lashes going this way. It stuck them all together, clumped them so bad, and I was like, holy cow, like, let me fix this. I tried to get another mascara and run through it. That didn't work. I tried to get a clean mascara wand, run through it and separate them. That worked a little bit, but it's so hard to run something else through them because the formula is so thick and goopy, and that gel formula, it's like trying to move cement through your lashes. Hot Mess Express did not like that. It did work if I put a mascara underneath it and then very gently and carefully put that on top of it. It really did help to like intensify the blackness of my lashes. It really helped to kind of plump them up, but it was really hard to take off at night, and also it's just too much trouble and too much fear of getting like clumpy lashes for me to use that. So yeah, that was a formula, and I'm typically someone who's pretty chill when it comes to mascara. As long as it gives me some like plumpness, some length or something, I can combine it with other mascaras to make it work and to get good use out of it. But that was a mascara I ended up decluttering because I just didn't want to bother with it again. Next up, I have the Profusion Lips to Go. I feel bad, but I only like tried this one like maybe 2-3 times. I put them on, and I tried them different ways. Like I tried just a liquid lipstick, and it was okay. It wasn't my favorite. It didn't have the best lasting power and just felt really drying. But then the one day I was like, I need to try all these together because it's in a lip kit to go. It was a lip liner, a liquid lipstick, and then a lip gloss or metallic liquid lip, something like that. Some kind of shiny topper. So I was like, I really need to try them all together because they're given in a set meant to be used together. So I put it all on, and I remember leaving my table, walking downstairs, and I was talking on the phone, and when I hung up, or I was talking on the phone or talking to Snapchat, I just remember talking as I was walking downstairs. By the time I got to the bottom, it had pooled and gotten so thick on the corners of my lips, like it was so thick. It just didn't feel nice. But even, I tried not to put my lips together, I tried not to move it around, and just going downstairs talking, it just like all the lips, I don't know, all the lip product on my lips just kept pulling to this corner of my lips, and I just, like, when I got to the bottom, I kind of wiped both of my lips at the corners just to move the gunk. It was so thick, like it was giving those strings, you know, when you open and shut your mouth. It was nasty. It was gross. I did not like it. I wasn't a huge fan of it. So yeah, that was a pretty bad product that I tried this past year. Okay, next, also Profusion. I don't mean to like hammer them, but it was the Profusion 5 Pan Palette. I just recently reviewed this, and maybe that's why it sticks out, but I put it in the worst products from 2018 because I couldn't believe how difficult it was to get the product to like stick to my face, specifically the blushes. So the bronzing shade was basically the same color as my skin tone, which I didn't really understand why it was so light, so it didn't do anything for me. And one of the highlighters was more of a weird duochrome where in the pan, like if you touched it, it would turn pink, but on your face it just looked like a shiny like white highlight that maybe had a bit of pink duochromeness, but I don't know, it was just an odd one. It worked. The second big highlighter worked beautifully. It was my favorite from the palette, and then the other highlighter was fine. It was just a bit odd. The bronzing shade did nothing, and then the two blushes, I tried to use them, and it was one that I would like puff on, like I would put a lot on my brush and try to puff it onto my, or buff it onto my face, and I could see the blush kind of going on. I could see the color, and then I would, you know, kind of blend it in, and it would all blend away. Even worse, like the one shade, the lighter shade wasn't too bad. If I worked hard enough, I could kind of see a little bit of pink, but the glittery deeper blush, I just kept seeing it go on, and then all the glitter and color just like fluffing off. Like it would not stick to my face. Weirdest thing, I am someone who always powders my face after foundation, but I always do that, and I've never had a blush do that. It was very odd. So that one was one that, yeah, it's affordable, but unless you're extremely pale and maybe have dewy skin to help the blush stick to you, I would say avoid. Okay, so just a couple more products, and the rest of these are actually all from Foxy Charms. So, but the first one I want to mention is the Foxy Charm and Pure palette, like their collab palette, and it was the really pretty, had like peach shades in it, and then like a really nice bright blue shade, and we got it towards the beginning of spring, so I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so pretty for the spring and summer season. That palette was pretty darn bad. There were so many issues with it. Again, I'm going to leave the video link down below if you want to hear all the issues that I had with it. But the shimmers didn't like to mesh together. The blue was a very weird shimmer with a ton of glitter that if I tried to use on my lower lash line, got all in my eyes. If I tried to pack it on my lid, it just didn't pack evenly, didn't want to sit well. And it was like a very subtle shimmer with glitter sparkles that when you tried to use it, the glitter just kind of poofed off. It would not stick. No matter what I used, glitter glue or not, it would just poof off and fall on your face throughout the day as you did your makeup, whatever. Not nice. And then on top of that, the mattes were they're just really a dry formula and a very not pigmented formula. So it took a lot of blending, it took a lot of work, and the darker shades I had issues with getting patchiness and like not wanting to stick in areas and build up in areas. So that whole palette, and I don't think I'm alone because I saw a lot of reviews and I've seen a couple, you know, end of the year worst products. Foxy Charm and Pure palette has been featured a couple times. Okay, so next up is the Bang Beauty Chocolate Eyeliner. I don't know what this gel liner is good for. To start off, it was a very, very light chocolate, not even chocolate, it was like a beigey brown shade, beigey taupe shade. It almost looked like a brow product, like the color for a brow product for someone who's like blonde or a dirty blonde, that kind of shade. So it was a very odd color for an eyeliner. That was kind of my first kind of like, okay. On top of that, it was extremely chunky, so you would try to pick it up and it would just kind of want to ball up. And then when I would wipe it off and go to put it on my eye, wherever I first deposited color, it would kind of just get really thick no matter how much kind of pressure I was trying to flatten it out. It would get really thick, and in some areas you could see that it was still thick, and in other areas it sheared out. It chunked up in weird areas on my eyes, so I did not enjoy it as a liner. I tried to use it as a base color, almost like a MAC paint pot or something. Big mistake there. Was not a pretty picture. It changed the colors of the eyeshadows. I was trying to use mattes. Whatever matte I put on there, it would change and mess with the color and how it stuck to it. Did not work there at all. I think probably because it's meant as a gel liner, but I was still trying to find a different use for it. Overall, I didn't understand that product. If it was black, at least I could have understood it a little bit more and it would have just been like the chunky factor. But I didn't like the color, I didn't like the chunky factor, and I didn't enjoy wearing it. It didn't last long either. I remember like rubbing at my eyes towards the end of the day, and it just came right off, no problem. was not a nice product. Alright, so there you have it. Those are the worst products from 2018 that I tried. It was a really fun year. I tried out so many new products. I had a solid year on YouTube, and I've been having so much fun with my YouTube channel, and I just want to thank you guys all for your support and for watching me each day this year. I had a lot of ups and downs throughout the year, and there was a lot of worst moments in 2018 for me in my personal life. But you guys are always there for me. You were always very supportive, and if I ever missed an upload day, you guys were totally okay with it. I got so many people just saying, hey Katie, take a break. You need a break, and it's okay. And I really appreciate that, and not having that pressure of like, I gotta upload kind of thing. So anyway, I just wanted to thank you guys for that. But anyway, that's gonna do it for this worst of 2018 video. Let me know what you think. Did we have any similar feelings towards any of these products? And if you liked any of these products, that's okay too. Feel free to let me know. If I'm using any of these products incorrectly, let me know. I think most of them are already gone, but food for thought, or if I ever run into them in the future, I am always open to constructive criticism and learning how to use products properly or whatnot, or just learning how you get products to work. So anyway, with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you guys in my next video. Bye guys.